Okay, and now we're coming to the, it's kind of a silly battle, in my view. Agathocles from the last one gets himself penned in at Syracuse. Carthage sieges in order to get rid of him. And by the way, it's not like I know this stuff. I read what the designer presents, so it's like, and the in some cases I do, but with the ancients, I'm pretty much going on what I find in the games. And Agathocles slips out of Syracuse with his own little invasion force, sails to Africa, kind of like the Romans will do later, and he doesn't have any capability to bring horses, but he brings cavalrymen with their saddles and grabs horses on the way, once he's in Africa. And he mounts an invasion, and historically he ends up winning this battle, possibly because of this guy here, Bomilcar, who apparently dislikes the Carthaginian main leader, and ends up trying to throw a coup afterwards, which fails. But anyway, in terms of forces, we have a very narrow battlefield, which is why the Carthaginian line is limited the way it is. Apparently we're in a valley where this was the only good territory. There's a Greek camp back here somewhere in the hill. Obviously we're reusing maps. The Sacred Band is here. Hey, we're not in Sicily anymore. It's safe. A little bit of weird line here. A little bit of cav, Sacred Band cav here. Some mercenaries here, I think. Oh no, more Sacred Band. But chariots interspersed with skirmishers. We've seen that before. For the Greeks, a lot of hoplites again, and we know how good they are. But on the other hand, we're not facing a lot of good stuff. When we look here at the Carthaginians, most of their forces are tribals, and the Libyan veterans are kind of their good stuff other than their own hoplites. However, the Greeks have a bunch of the barbarian troops here, Celts, Samnites, Etruscans. They have a thinner skirmisher line of their own, a little bit of cav on each flank, good cav, very good cav, and then a mixture of slingers and archers there. Pretty high quality for the hoplite units. Any special rules for this? Not really. Our points, 95 route points for the Carthaginians. Syracuse is 75. Smaller army, but probably better quality. They say this should be a pretty close game. Usually we've seen the hoplites falter, but maybe I'll be able to figure out some way of handling them better. One thing that worries me is the high number of skirmishers Carthage has is comparatively. They're gonna serve a significant purpose. When you outnumber the enemy's skirmishers, you can wipe their skirmishers out, and then you can use them as an effective roadblock. And when you're dealing with troops that aren't too different from skirmishers anyway, a lot of light infantry, etc., they're easier to cope with and maneuver around. Oh, line commands. I'm a little concerned about this. So Carthage has the hoplites and medium infantry, which is this line from here upward. But we could also do hoplites and light infantry, which is a little weird because there's mediums interspersed in there. I don't know if that's intended that way. Skirmishers and chariots need not be adjacent to intervening hexes possible. Okay, now for Syracuse, we have hoplites, heavy infantry, and medium infantry can all be combined, which is pretty much this whole line, except for the LPs, which kind of sucks. Oh, wait. That's the mercenary division. So this is what gets kind of complicated. So this is one division, which can take its own line command, and that's kind of the same thing with the left wing. I'm gonna throw these medium infantry in there. I'm not going to allow somebody to command the entire line, though. That seems to be the intention here, is to break it that way, but so that, you know, I can't just move all of these forward or all of these forward. The main Syracuse division, I guess, is these, but again, these are mercenaries, so I don't know, they don't really fit in there. And then their skirmishers, they're allowed 4 intervening hexes between their skirmisher units. Now, notably, the cav are completely outside of that. They are not counted as the skirmishers, which kind of makes sense. You wouldn't be moving them forward as a skirmisher type of unit. But we don't have like big cav formations on either side, actually. So that should be kind of interesting. The plight of the Syracusean skirmishers looks pretty lousy because there's all these chariots, and basically whoever gets the jump on the other gets to go first. I'm gonna trigger a line move from Syracuse because they get to go first, but then I look and there's no way to get most of these chariots. These two are vulnerable. I'm actually close enough, I think I can hit them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Except for formation change. But no matter what I do with my skirmishers, they're vulnerable to those damn chariots. Because unless I can kind of clump them all together or something, and even if I do, the chariots going against a skirmisher are on the 13 table, no matter what angle I come at. If the skirmishers can get the jump on the chariots, they get an advantage. But as it stands right now, I think I just want to withdraw my skirmishers. They're useless. They're just going to get overrun. The only possible alternative is if skirmishers don't have to pay to change formation or to change facing. Something in my head says that may be the case, but it is not. So the per vertex facing change. Oh no. Okay, see, now this is weird. Yeah, there's a pervasive elephants, chariots, cataphract, and charge formation pay 2 per. There's no exemption for the cavalry. I always read this chart wrong and think this is the movement point side. This is the cohesion side. The movement point cost is always the same for all formations, which seems a little strange to me as well. Something in my head tells me, though, that at some point skirmishers were able to turn freely. I don't know. With the addition of the interpenetration rules that have shown up in the most recent version of Alexander, no problem, man. I just pull the skirmishers back. Maybe they'll be able to chase down chariots later, but right now I can't leave them out there. They'll just get mowed down. I shove forward the Carthaginian skirmisher line, including their chariots, 2 of which charged the cav. One's gone, but the other one actually routed the cav it hit. Barely, but it did it. That's pretty impressive, actually. Here comes the problem. I don't have a whole lot of cav, and I'm not sure what to do with it exactly. It's not like there's going to be big flanks that are wide open for the cav to exploit. I've got a leader over here in charge of this cav, and he might be the guy I'm triggering right now. If that's the case, and I'm assuming the line command breaks here from the 2 divisions that there are, and that I have to keep these 2 forces separate. They're, you know, they won't accept a singular line. So if this force is sent forward with a line command, 2 things could happen. The skirmishers could fall back, and hey, we're fine then. Except for their chariots, which could still wreak havoc on us. They've got some advantages still. The other is the skirmishers could stand where they are, and 3 of my units could get blocked by the skirmishers, essentially. Actually, maybe 2 of them get blocked by the skirmishers, and the rest march forward. they have to go full speed. Ouch. And another option is, well, what am I going to do with my cav? It sucks against chariots. That's all there is to it. Heavy cav hitting chariots is a 3 no matter what side I hit it from. Those chariots are not small units in this scenario, unlike in, say, SPQR, where they end up pretty tiny, and that makes up some of the ground for them. And yes, I might just scare it away by charging it, but I might not. I'm not sure what I want to do. I don't think I'm going to launch the line command, though. I think what I'm going to do is rally the cav, maybe move the LP forward. What is that like? Light infantry on chariots. So I'm almost like skirmishers against chariots. So that light infantry might be able to jump them. In fact, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got the position too, and the chariots may not be able to turn very easily. At the very least, they have to make a separate morale check or just route, or quality check or just route. Artis over here was able to recover some units, move these skirmishers around to the flank where they might do some good, and get rid of the chariot problem. Hey, high quality unit went and charged them, tried to get flank attacks on both of them, got it on one, not on the other, but basically the chariots disintegrated on approach in both cases. Now, clearing the way for the Sacred Band to actually move, getting the chariots out of the way, and I did something that I don't think I've done very often, if at all, before. And moved the cav up as well, which was to use one leader to give orders to another leader to move. This is the overall commander, so it actually even makes more sense. But I just wanted to get him out of the way. He was kind of at risk. This chariot is in a scary position, but it's just going to die. But it does provide some road blockage there. And it also creates a problem because the Syracusan line, if it moves forward in this direction, is going to start creating a gap unless everything slides this way. If it moves this way, it's going to open up a flank. So I really kind of have to hug the edge of the map, which is probably a little goofy. Although, if anything, the chariots, I'm sure, can't go into any rough terrain there. But cav could. And there is a heavy cav getting ready to charge there. Well, it's just developing very, very oddly. In part because of the two divisions having to move separately. Well, now there's a big opening here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not quite exploitable unless a dual action can be taken. I did withdraw the skirmishers from the front of the line. I'm not sure that was a wise idea, but I really just hate seeing them die. But they're very effective, actually, against these hoplite units, just to break up the formation by sitting there. But maybe I want it to be closer where I can exploit it better. And then I shifted some of these skirmishers around and then recovered them because they've been running too hard. Because, hey, I want them where they can do some nasty stuff, not in the front. We saw what happened when skirmishers fight skirmishers. We just sit there, and it's ugly. And that's where the problem ends up coming, is that neither line can move forward without its own skirmishers causing problems as well as its opponents. So rather than, play out several turns of skirmisher fighting, the chariots convinced me to go hide. Well, now I'm doing the kinds of things that I like to do with skirmishers, which keep them in sort of a reserve or mop-up type role, where they run around and kill, say, routing units or something like that. Got the all too common problem of a good commander sitting out in front of some lousy one. And this is something I really dislike about the GBOH system. It's you know, if you have an elite leader, you can clear that guy out of there or whatever. But without that, you have no control over the timing of how things move. And unlike the chit pull that comes later, you will always have this guy having to move later, unless he trumps some in somehow. So, you know, I'm going to have to try to avoid his troops, and now the cav is going to get left behind, or maybe more likely, because I guess this wing ends here, I just maybe hold back. Do I have any real reason to... 2, 3, 4, 5. See, I can scare off these skirmishers and start opening up that flank, and that's what I want to do, I think. Since it's my first command of the turn of the game, I get a free line command, and I don't want to waste that. The problem is, this thing can't make it through those skirmishers. So, I probably will define the line not including him. A couple of interesting things here. First of all, over here, the light infantry marches all the way forward, not using harassment tactics or anything like that, just marches up and throws their javelins. The reason for this is there's no hoplite charge, there's no TQ check that's going to be required, nothing of that nature. So I've been able to get some hits and slow their movement. And now, if these guys want to move forward, which they probably won't, it's going to disrupt the hoplite line as well. Over here, these lights smacked into and routed the peltist guards. However, you can see they got kind of disorganized. Now, I'm not done yet, or I'm rolling for momentum at this point to see if he gets it, and he does. Is this a trumpable moment? Because if I don't trump, he's going to get to reform that line a little bit. In addition, he could send skirmishers around the back. He's not in position to give a line command here, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's not the choice. I don't think I'm going to trump this. We'll see what turns out. What happened right here wasn't much. He got all his initiatives, but basically just fired bow fire and some missiles that didn't do much. But this guy launched a cav attack on the flank with his one cav, routed the hoplites. He had the light infantry throw in, and he's also positioned a light infantry here. These guys are in charge formation. They can't get away easily. If I got a momentum, I would have been able to slap that cav pretty hard, and that would pretty much collapse the entire line over on this side for Syracuse. As it is, though, I failed the momentum, and I would have trumped. And now I've got the rest of the main line. And here I get to make the decision of whether to withdraw those skirmishers. This one certainly will, because he's facing the mediums. I want to get away from them. They can do nasty stuff to me. Well, so can the hoplites, and honestly, I probably want to run away from them too, because they're probably going to occupy my space at the end of it all. I just don't have a lot of tactical quality, and I'm going to get, you know, attacker, there's going to be attacker superior, so they're going to be able to blast right through me without much problem. The turn ends with Syracuse moving their left flank forward. Make sure I don't burn the map. And then failing on their first momentum attempt with a die roll of doom, which caused I want to bring these up with line command, that's the problem. But I also want, it caused the right flank of the Carthaginian army to go forward. The Carthaginian army I want here, this is a particularly good location because they're going to get the first shot to move over these guys, unless something weird happens. But because this guy's back here with his 3 movement, he's not going to be able to fire a line command off against them, or his 3 initiative. So a 6 over here, since this is the dividing line of the 2 wings, is going to be very late in the turn. So all of these are going to get to hit first. And, you know, there's a good chance that we're going to get hit from the flank as well by the cav and maybe the chariots. So things look very bad for Syracuse at this moment. I was hoping to rally my cav. I was hoping maybe to get some of these skirmishers over there to help solidify that line. That didn't happen. These more maneuverable units can run around the skirmishers with almost no problem. The hoplites have more trouble. But there is one thing. It means that my line of tribals back there, I'm not going to be able to easily get them forward. I might. If I send this line forward and I get a momentum, I can run back. Well, I can run back before I get the momentum. If I get a momentum, I can send this line forward. And I kind of want that because things are looking messy here, and I may be needing some reinforcements, especially after I hit that hoplite line, and would kind of like to have them available. Turn started off with something of a bang. This guy over here with the skirmishers moved his skirmishers over, ran over here, rallied the cav. I figure, yeah, I'm gonna want that, right? Got a momentum. Failed trump. You know, not choosing the best valued guy to trump is always kind of iffy, but I had these desires to move here, take advantage of the situation, whatever. The failed trump ends up meaning that he gets that extra movement, and he launches some of the heavies, including a phalanx unit, against the heavy cav, routs it, and now things look a lot different. If I'd gotten another momentum, I might have just continued my attacks against the chariots, etc. But now there's routing heavy cav that's going to go off the map if somebody doesn't do something about it, and the whole Carthaginian right flank is sort of looking suspect at this point. It's not, you know, in a state of collapse. There's a big weakness over here on Syracuse, and we're going to see whether or not Carthage can exploit that. Problem, of course, is they have their own big units on that side, which aren't very good at exploiting such situations. They only have a 4 movement point allowance. Maybe I can cross units and do all kind of crazy crap like that. That doesn't even make sense. But, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do in a game, right? And the massive Carthaginian surge forward slams into the main Syracusan line, and everything pretty much holds. Nothing routed. We got a hole here where I wasn't able to get around the skirmisher safely, and that's going to cause me some potential problems, but no momentum. He just tries to save the situation over here, and with a heavy cav charge against the heavy cav, and eventually slingers and such not, they managed to drive one away. But when they launched the hoplites, they got repulsed. And that's a lot of points coming off the field right now. That's 24 more points. That's going to put us halfway to the loss, and one hell of a flank hanging out there. Not much left to this turn. We got our main commander for Syracuse over here, who's going to be able to do something. And before that, we have our Carthaginians on that flank who, you know, I mean, things are pretty disordered right now, but they're going to have an opportunity to try to rectify that situation. And they're certainly better for Carthage than they are for Syracuse over there. The momentum, though, was enough to break open the right flank of, well, I don't know, the right center of the Carthaginian line here, which had gotten kind of disassociated with their big hoplite units there. And as you can see, they routed like, you know, pretty big set of units. Commander was able to rally his heavies here, so they'll be able to throw back into the fight. We'll see where this all goes. Some of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are going to be pretty close to going off the board, which leaves Carthage with some of the tough choices of, hey, do you try to fight the battle that's going on, or do you run back and try to get some of those troops from costing you points more than anything else? You're not really all that concerned with getting them back in the battle. They're going to be beaten up and everything, but they cost you points if they leave the board. The end of turn positioning. You can see got some of the routed units off, some of them clustering there. Point-wise, it's actually very close. 37 to 34. Of course, Syracuse has a lower threshold, but they're not doing quite as poorly as I thought they would with the collapse over here. They've gotten some good score here, and they got some points, not really in the bank, but not far from it. These guys only have a 50-50 chance of rallying if I work towards doing it, which is, again, that's part of why it's a tough choice. This is like, okay, do I want to roll a die to see whether or not I lose the points now or lose them later? When you got room to run, quite often you just say, well, let them run for a while. Maybe I'll go back and deal with them later. But because you'll be definitely losing some points for rallying them. Of course, I tend to screw up and try to rally them anyway, and more times than not, it costs me. Now with this guy rallying a couple of units, he got a momentum and firing off these skirmishers to try to weaken the hoplite. Then we swing over to this guy who did some rallying as well, some of it not successful. But he also charged his chariots, hit these guys in the flank. They decided not to try to turn and face the chariots, hoping they would just run away. They didn't, and they broke the heavies. And a number of reasons. There was a very good chance that the chariots would just break, and then I'd be facing the wrong direction, and I'd have to launch, I'd have to start over with an attack. So it seemed like there were advantages to not turning. The biggest thing being the chariots are fast, so they have a good chance of routing you if they're charging in, whereas they had a good chance of routing if I ignored them. Movement in the center, a Gothicus, I think. I can't really read it. It might be a Gotharchus. He's not the main leader. I think he's his son. Launched some attacks over here, including moving this hoplite forward, which were successful, and then he went back and tried to rally units, which was not bad. And then he had a die roll of doom, which gave this guy a chance to destroy a few of his units trying to rally them. And then we jumped over to here, where he moved that rear line forward, and then did some mixed effectiveness rallying and some fire. He's got these Spartans almost all the way down from missile fire here. I mean, he just dropped them one, but they were already pretty fatigued. So that's where we're sitting here. Point-wise, Carthage is up to 57. So, and none of those hoplites have gone for Syracuse yet. So it's looking like it's getting a little bit closer to Syracuse actually having successfully used their hoplites here. And it looks even better because the center's starting to break up here. And we see the hoplite unit routing away after this guy ran around doing various tasks. Most of them at the end being, hey, you guys roll some dice. But there is a serious problem. We've got 2 leaders and a bunch of fairly fresh units ready to just descend on that hoplite line. And I think that's gonna pretty much seal Syracuse's fate. I know, you know, it's one of the things about these games is that they can be pretty exciting in a way that most combat games aren't to me. Maybe squad leader type stuff is too, in the same kind of, it can be very, very, very tense as to what happens, etc. It all comes down to some die rolls. Yeah, you can set everything up, but of course I don't feel like I'm cleverly setting everything up. I'm just watching really cool stuff happening. And in a lot of action then over on this side, where the Syracuse side looks like it has some sort of advantage. The heavy infantry got partially repulsed here by the lights, but otherwise we advanced kind of in the center. Over here the Sacred Band is just standing like a rock. It's being abused tremendously. Multiple rounds of getting hit from flanks and rear, and fire coming in it from the front, and they're just standing there laughing it off. I mean, they keep, I think they went to, I seem to remember they went to a 13 cohesion hits at one point, but that's only +5 on the die roll. So No, it was one of these 7s that survived that. But all the same, you know, they've got such a huge morale, and they've got this bonus of, hey, we don't really want to take that morale check. So they're just sitting there at 6. They go up to 7, then they have to make their, or they go back to 7, then they have to make their roll. Hey, we're in a zone of control, and they succeed at that too. So, you know, at some point they would break, but they're doing a lot of damage while staying exactly the same for now. So that's kind of bad for Syracuse. We'll score the points for the turn. We got at least one more coming off here. Managed to rally these guys, which should help, but wow, we got some serious Carthage points coming too. Now, this one's actually still holding pretty equal. 24 points away here. 14 for Carthage. This is the first time I've seen Syracuse coming close to holding their own in these battles. Simply not quite sure why. Lower quality Carthaginian units, there's no question there. You have these high quality, these barbarians, which have been the bane of Syracuse this whole time. When you hit these lights, the tribals with the hoplite formations, yeah, they kind of collapse. They don't hold up very well. And we just don't have any high quality stuff over here other than the Sacred Band, which I kind of say doesn't count as much because it's hoplite formations. They're not maneuverable. They can't run around doing a lot for you. There wasn't a lot of cav either. Usually Carthage seems to have an advantage in the cavalry. Here they do have that, it seems. I don't know. They've got one over here that's still operating. But elsewhere, basically Syracuse hasn't been able to apply its cavalry very well. So, yeah, I think the biggest issue is where these green units, who owns them? That's what seemed to be it, because, you know, they're kind of like Roman pieces, not quite as good. They don't have the awesome. Where isn't there a? No. There's something. Oh, here's what it is. As an attacker, they come out as LGs, which, yeah, is a better class than what you have with your Greek heavy infantry. So they don't have that advantage, but they have the advantage of the mobility. Maybe not quite the speed, but some of them do. There's medium infantry with 5s. The heavies have 4s, but they're still pretty solid units. And these big 2-hex units, they're tough to keep together, especially when you have to move them full speed ahead. Okay, down here we open up the turn. A little bit of prep work here. The missile fire is moving closer, trying to finish things off over here. But it doesn't look. It's tough to beat those hoplites. But on the other hand, over here, we have a swarming of these lights that smacked a pretty decent hoplite, a 7-pointer for tactical quality, and got rid of that. Now, they did it at high cost. I lost a couple of units attacking it just because everybody was kind of worn out, but one unit survives always, so if you win the battle. So we got one that's in okay shape and beginning to push over, and there just really isn't much left of Syracuse. There's these back here. Point wise, we're at 65 for Syracuse, which is 10 away, and 91, which is 4 away for Carthage. Ouch. I think this 81 is correct. This could well be a turn where both players go over the breaking point, and you don't have a sudden finish or anything like that. It goes to the end of the turn, and we'll see who does the most damage. Right now, it looks like Carthage is in a better position overall, but I can't get everything to bear on the center of the Syracusan line, which is the real problem for them. So if they can trash the Sacred Band unit, it's probably Syracuse's game. If they can't, I think it's Carthage's game. The Carthaginian kind of right center here just fell apart. I didn't quite realize what I could do here, but I launched those hoplites against the lights and drove them back, and then the routed one got a momentum, took the routed ones out. During that momentum there was a attempt to trump in that failed. Also got rid of the sacred band. So right now there's 127 Carthaginian points. That's a big lead. That's what, 32 points over the total. We'll have to get to 107 here, which is 42 more points for Syracuse to lose, which is going to be tough to do. There are some vulnerabilities like this unit here, but I only have one leader to combat that, and I've got more units routing off the map that if I don't do something about them, I got a problem, and one of them I can't really do anything about anyway. Actually, I can't do crap anyway because I'm pinned down with the leader, except that's my overall commander. He can spend a couple commands to pull himself out of that situation. But still, he's not going to have very many actions because of that. It's going to really slow him down. This trumping in was a horrible effect, if not a horrible choice. I probably should have gone with this guy, but I felt like I needed more actions afterwards. And, hey, you know how it goes. Anyway, that makes this sacred band in danger. It's pretty high up. And when you start hitting these guys from the flank and rear, there's a good chance they go. They're an iffy hoplite, a 6-point hoplite, you know, with the crappy 5s. They're probably going to go. But an 8, what we've seen is they're pretty damn sturdy. But anyhow, that's just extra points that Syracuse could pick up. They still have this huge lead right now. Syracuse's forces back here got multiple activations, able to charge in, get rid of at least a couple of those light infantries that were up here. And we're down to just one Carthaginian leader all the way over here. I don't think that can do anything. I might be able to route these units, but then Syracuse can just put it in the bag. They don't have to actually activate anything here. They don't have to take any chances whatsoever. So this is essentially over. We'll see. We'll see what he can do. Sometimes this game surprises me. Well, I was able to smack into these guys. One of my units got routed. I have a heavy cav which can charge. That's in charge formation. But I did not get the momentum check, which means it's over. Even if I had gotten it, there would have been an opportunity to trump. All you have to do when you trump is move one piece. So again, I could still put the victory in my pocket. There are more points happening here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically this, and I think that's it. So that's 5 more points off Carthage. So it's 137 to the 65. And we have finally seen the Greek system beat the Carthaginians. Again, I think it came down not so much to any, although I may have gotten a little bit better at playing with those hoplite units, I think it came down to where the quality maneuverable pieces were, you know. And honestly, if this game reflected reality, which it obviously doesn't do that great a job, and it may just be the Tyrant module, not Alexander as a whole, because you've got the Phalanx units, which are much, much better. If this game fully reflected reality, I feel like you would not have seen historical outcomes. Therefore, either, and this is what I've come across again and again, either the numbers just aren't quite right, or the Greek units, well, or I'm doing something incorrect when running the Greeks. I suspected this even over with Hoplite, where the Persian forces, I felt like if they were played with care, could actually probably come out about even against the Greek units. And here, well, what we're seeing is when there's decent quality stuff. Now, this is the thing. The Carthaginian units were not decent quality. But this is not a far-fetched battle. You know, this actually is probably a close fight by any account. But in the way it played out, it just comes down to, you know, if you've got more maneuverable units that have good quality, you can do a pretty good number on those hoplites. It's just too hard to protect their flanks and such. All right, let's send this one up, whatever the heck it is. White Tunis, I think.